Primarily, my research interests focus on two things: youth mentoring relationships within church settings, and the second one is white racial identity development. My interest in those topics actually came from my teaching and work experiences. Prior to becoming a college professor, I worked as a youth pastor, especially within immigrant and minority church settings. As I work with families and children and adolescents, what I came to realize the role of the church, and specifically the mentors who come between the adolescents and children's generation and parent generation. I did a quantitative study, and what my research has shown was that the church mentors, specifically within ethnic church settings, were working as a buffer against the outside external pressures and experiences that adolescents are encountering, such as racism or prejudice or bullying at school settings and the society. And the youth mentors within church setting have gone through those similar experiences, so they were able to empathize with adolescents. But that was the only one side story. The other one is they were working as a buffer against the internal pressures the adolescents were experiencing. Those adolescents were second generations. So that first generation immigrant parents usually have a really high, sometimes unrealistic expectations for their children to succeed and do well, not only academically, but in the society, in their careers as well. And these youth mentors who also have experienced those pressures, but have overcome and look for their own career path, were able to communicate empathically with their adolescents. So that's what my study was on youth mentoring relationships. The second topic came from my teaching experiences. So after I became a professor, I teach cultural psychology, developmental psychology, and research methodology. In one of my assignments that I give for cultural psychology course is create an cultural autobiography. That's one of the earlier assignments. I was teaching this course in several institutions, and what I have seen is that students from minority backgrounds have no difficult time doing this assignment. They were able to talk about their heritage, their culture, cultural practices, and their encounters with prejudices of the world, or how they have witnessed something happening in their neighborhood, in their community. However, my students from European background, who are the majority, who are white students, had such a difficult time starting off on this assignment. They'll sometimes tell me, I do not have culture. I do not know how to trace my heritage. I am 1/4 Scottish, 1/4 Irish. I do not feel comfortable talking about whiteness as a positive thing. And that's where my interests were triggered. Having a healthy identity, whether it is race, racial or ethnic, or vocational, or religious identity, is very important. It's a very important task. But recent studies have shown that very minimal number of white individuals think of whiteness as a positive thing. When we look at the developmental models, we do have substantial number of identity models of Black racial identity or Asian American identity models. But then the things that we have about white racial identities, it actually have received many criticisms that it was actually copied or learned from other models. And it addressed how white individuals overcome their own racism or their perceptions of other race rather than their own distinctive stages of white racial identity. So far, I was able to collect some data from the southeastern part of the United States. This time it was more qualitative, semi-structured interview studies. What I have found is that many white young people describe their whiteness in terms of religious identity. So when I ask questions about please tell me about your white background, they say, I go to church, as a Christian expression. Sometimes when I ask, how do white parents raise their children about white cultural practices, they answer, we celebrate 4th of July as Americans. So, and then they also say, we cook, we have barbecue as a Southern practices. So there is an intersectionality amongst racial, religious, and geographical and national identity. That's the area that needs further exploration and further study. That's what my lab is doing these days.